It's classic book talk time. Jonas was identified as a possible receiver many years ago. We observed him meticulously. There were no dreams of uncertainty. He has shown all the qualities that a receiver must have. With her hand still firmly on his shoulder, the chief elder listed the qualities. Intelligence, she said. We are all aware that Jonas has been a top student throughout his school days. Integrity, she said next. Jonas has, like all of us, committed minor transgressions. She smiled at him. We expect that. We hoped also that he would present himself promptly for chastisement, and he has always done so. Courage, she went on. Only one of us here today has ever undergone the rigorous training required of a receiver. He, of course, is the most important member of the committee, the current receiver. It was he who reminded us again and again of the courage required. Jonas, she said, turning to him, but speaking in a voice that the entire community could hear, the training required of you involves pain, physical pain. He felt fear flutter within him. You have never experienced that. Yes, you have scraped your knees and falls from your bicycle. Yes, you have crushed your finger in a door last year. Jonas nodded, agreeing, as he recalled the incident and its accompanying misery. But you will be faced now, she explained gently, with pain of a magnitude that none of us here can comprehend because it is beyond our experience. The receiver himself was not able to describe it, only to remind us that you would be faced with it, that you would need immense courage. We cannot prepare you for that, but we feel certain that you are brave, she said to him. He did not feel brave at all, not now. The fourth essential attribute, the chief elder said, is wisdom. Jonas has not yet acquired that. The acquisition of wisdom will come through his training. We are convinced that Jonas has the ability to acquire wisdom. That is what we looked for. Finally, the receiver must have one more quality, and it is one which I can only name but not describe. I do not understand it. You members of the community will not understand it either. Perhaps Jonas will, because the current receiver has told us that Jonas already has this quality. He calls it the capacity to see beyond. The chief elder looked at Jonas with a question in her eyes. The audience watched him too. They were silent. For a moment he froze, consumed with despair. He didn't have it, the whatever she had said. He didn't know what it was. Now was the moment when he would have to confess, to say, no, I don't, I can't, and throw himself on their mercy, ask their forgiveness, and to explain that he had been wrongly chosen, that he was not the right one at all. But when he looked out across the crowd, the sea of faces, the thing happened again. The thing that had happened with the apple. They changed. He blinked and it was gone. His shoulders straightened slightly. Briefly he felt a tiny sliver of sureness for the first time. She was still watching him. They all were. I think it's true, he told the chief elder and the community. I don't understand it yet. I don't know what it is. But sometimes I see something, and maybe it's beyond. She took her arm from his shoulders. Jonas, she said, speaking not to him only, but to the entire community of which she was a part, you will be trained to be our next receiver of memory. We thank you for your childhood. Then she turned and left the stage, left him there alone, standing and facing the crowd, which began spontaneously the collective murmur of his name. Jonas. It was a whisper at first, hushed, barely audible. Jonas. Jonas. Then louder, faster. Jonas, Jonas, Jonas! With the chant, Jonas knew the community was accepting him and his new role, giving him life the way that they had given it to the new child, Caleb. His heart swelled with gratitude and pride, but at the same time he was filled with fear. He did not know what his selection meant. He did not know what he was to become, or what would become of him. And that is the selection from The Giver by Lois Lowry. It was written back in 1993. So it's a contemporary classic, probably the most contemporary I think that I've done in this series before. It is a dystopian novel, and it sometimes is considered children's literature and sometimes considered young adult or teen literature. It kind of has a crossover appeal, and I would say that it's like essentially an all-age kind of story. I mean, there's probably some ages that wouldn't catch all of the nuances, but basically the dystopian part of the book is that it is a civilization or a community that has chosen priorities such as sameness, and basically it seems to be a rather like well into the future community. Several generations have passed since they remember snow, for instance. They've changed the look of their land, of their world, of their society. The biggest priority seems to be this idea of sameness. Like, it seems like they also have this kind of ideal of obedience and staying to the norm, or the sameness, I guess. And people at a certain age, they're assigned essentially a career for the rest of their lives. And that's the assignment section that we were just reading, is the assignment for Jonas. Jonas is given the assignment of receiver. So the title, The Giver, is essentially the role of the current receiver before Jonas. He gives things in his role to Jonas. It's like kind of like history. I'll say it that way. It's more involved than that, but it's sort of like history. Basically, there's like an idea of like diversity being kind of bad, like curiosity almost kind of being bad, questioning things being kind of bad. They don't want you to ask too many questions, that kind of thing. There's like an idea of control in this society. They've also seemed to try to correct some issues from previous generations that have created, like for instance, they all ride bikes and things like that. I don't want to give too much away. But this is a book that actually contains all 4 books in the series. It's one we have in our YA Classics collection. I hope you give it a chance.